Isaiah Colton and Bobby Gall, and we're here for another Ren Home Advisor podcast, RHA podcast, where we're going to be talking about how accurate Zillow Zestimate is. This is kind of a controversial topic.
It's very controversial.
But we're gonna dive into it. We're gonna give you the information you need to determine if using Zestimates a good decision or not. So, Bobby, I'd like to. You have a ton of experience in this topic, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on how accurate a Zillow Zestimate is.
So I don't want to get too personal into it. Obviously, realtors feel a certain way about Zillow, but just looking at the figures alone, Zillow lost millions of dollars buying houses that they couldn't resell off of their Zestimate. So if they can't price houses to buy and sell themselves, I mean, what kind of service are they giving you is the real question I would ask.
Okay. And so what makes it inaccurate? Like, how does their algorithm work? You know, what makes it accurate or not accurate or whatever?
So see, that's private information, so nobody really knows the exact algorithm. But what was discovered, and you guys can look this up online yourself, is that Zillow pretty much takes the sales in a certain area and they'll divide it by the square footage and come with a square footage price. And then the algorithm also runs the bedrooms, bathrooms, and it spits out a price. That being said, it was discovered that the algorithm they use takes all real estate sales, commercial and residential. So, you can't compare a 7-Eleven or a gas station or a warehouse that just sold, down the street to your residential price. It skews the numbers. And, for everybody that has taken a statistic, that your highest number and your lowest number, you got to, even when they're comparable sales, throw them out because they're outliers, right? But now you start adding all these other information in there that, that aren't comparables.
Right. And so how does this affect whether the house sells or not? Like, how does this affect the overall picture?
It's just inaccurate information, right? So when you have for sale by owners, or if you think that's my figure, it could throw you off. That being said, you could be grossly overpriced or grossly underpriced. We actually went on an appointment last month.
This is insane.
With Kayla. It was about $900,000 the house, and we asked him how to price it. His estimate, the house really worth $700,000, and he was in that mindset where I'm leaving so much money on the table. It's like you're not, though. That number it's just a number, and it's got nothing backing it up.
Okay.
But
I think I know what the sellers are thinking. How the heck do I get the right price in my home then? How do I, if I can't use that Zestimate, what's the best strategy?
I would advise you to, hire a right realtor that knows what they're doing. Even a lot of realtors don't know what they're doing. Realtor was using the Zestimate to price a house, and she was a newer realtor.
Serious, bro?
I'm serious.
Oh my gosh.
I wish I wasn't, but depending on, the property you have, I would hire an experienced realtor that's experienced in your neighborhood that would know how to price a property, and ask your realtor, right? Don't forget to ask these important questions. How did you come up with that figure? And if you're still unsure or you think that figure is not correct, pay a few $100s and get an appraisal.
How much is that appraisal worth in the long run? How much can that save or make them if they committed to more of an appraisal approach?
The appraisal approach is huge because that's the value that banks are using, and important to understand that. For example, when everybody's getting, 20, 30, sometimes $80,000 more for their house, we tell our clients, here's a number that makes sense. We might get all this over, but the house might not appraise, and your average person is getting the mortgage. So it's important to have those conversations as well. Just because somebody says that they're going to pay $1 million for your $100,000 house doesn't mean that that's actually going to happen. So it's very important to have real estate for yourself and for selling your house. So the conversation we have is, here's the value. We got $60,000 over what the house is valued at. That being said, we don't think this property will appraise, right, for the bank, for the lender. So we'll get the highest amount we can, but the most important thing is whatever the appraisal comes in at, that is going to be our figure. So we're gonna have to reduce the price somewhere or whatever.
Okay. What would you say like the most common mistake is made when it comes to this process you're talking about? Like when it comes to like just selling the home in general?
I feel like people are too attached to their house, right? In a
What do
way,
you mean? Like what is that? Like emotionally, you mean?
emotionally and how should I word this? Right? Like if I'm selling something, my house is worth $1 million, right? I see this a lot. Like when it comes to their house, they're like, oh, that's a little nick on the wall. That's nothing serious. I still want full value for my house. But then when we sell their house and we're looking to buy a house, even a smaller nick, they're like, this whole wall has to, be changed. So it's like when it's your product, it's the best thing out there. When you're buying somebody else's product, it's oh, this is wrong with it, that's wrong with it, and that's just human psychology. But I think home sellers have to realize, and buyers, that this is a business transaction and it's not personal. So you have to take a step back and you have to look at the facts and you have to look at the data because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, that's powerful. Will you get more money and by underpricing or overpricing?
You get more money by underpricing your house.
That seems so, it's like, I know people listening to this, so they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean underpricing my house? How am I going to get more money?
So here's the thing. It's all about activity. It's all about what you draw to the house. We've actually been testing this is even, underpricing a house $150,000 just to test our data and everything. So the mentality is when there's 100 people looking at that house in 3 days, people get bid happy and people, that reassures to them that that house is a really good deal, that there's so many people looking and they're wanting to pay for it. If you overprice your house, now what you're going to run into is you don't really have a lot of activity, and somebody that does want it is going to lowball the heck out of you because they're like, there's no activity and I'm the only person, that's willing to buy this. So that's where you get your lowball offers. And when you look at two identical houses, one's overpriced, one's underpriced, and over a 3-month period, right? Because you lower, and then this one will sell in like 3 days, and this one you're on the market for 3 months. Essentially, you will get more money by underpricing it. I always tell my clients this story, right? If you price your house for $1 today, are you going to sell it for $1? No, we'll have like 1,000 offers. Correct. If we overprice the house, then nobody's going to write an offer. We're going to reduce. It's like dating. Somebody's, if you're the longer you're on the market, the more people think, is wrong with you. Mm-hmm. So the most important fact is underpricing it, getting that activity and getting everybody bidding on it. Right. So even when I was buying my house, they underpriced it about, $100,000 below. We ended up bidding on it way up, more than I wanted to. And the realtor called me and he's like, would you pay another $5,000? I was like, bro, I offered like $90,000 over. What he's like, yeah, but what's another $5,000?
Yeah, at that point.
They'll have to cut that out. But yeah, at that point, but that's the mentality, right? But they had over, 30 offers on it. So it's something I had to do. Right. And I knew that 5,000, right? I forgot about the 90,000. I knew that extra 5,000 was going to make it or break it, and it got it done. And that's the most important thing. But if you're overpriced, it's all about leverage. You have no leverage.
So wrap us up with a quote to sum all this up.
This is a quote by Jim Rohn that I like. Time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. Right. And I relate to the homeowner. I think it relates to the homeowner perfectly because just like we were talking about overpricing, underpricing, if you're overpricing, you're just wasting time. you're gonna waste your time and you're gonna get less money compared to being done quick and, you know, moving on with your dreams and goals by pricing it correctly the first time.
Good. So for the takeaways for today's podcast is we really want to make sure that you put yourself in the best position, and it's really tough to do that if you're just depending on its estimate. So maybe just wrap us up with your final thoughts on this.
My final thoughts on this is hire a professional. Check their reviews and make sure that professional is a professional in your neighborhood, in your type of house, right? If somebody's a professional in residential property in a certain neighborhood, they're not good for your lake house, right? So you got to find somebody so one realtor is not the best in all different aspects. You got to find somebody that fits you and your property.
It's good. So I think that's some good advice. Next week, we have another podcast for you we're really excited about. So make sure you come back and listen to next week's podcast. It's Isaiah Colton and Bobby Gall with RHA. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day.